Hello, everyone, and this is the Apathetic Life podcast. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Miss Grace from our English department. If you would speak closer to the mic, this is really not sensitive. And could you please first introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, I am the infamous Miss Grace. The one who just assigns way too much work and says it like it is and tells you your writing is bad.
Is there a reason why you're that infamous?
I don't know. I don't even think I'm that harsh, but apparently that's what I've heard in the hallways, that she's mean.
I think workload-wise, not really. Because some subjects, like, for example, I feel like most APs set more homework than AP Lang, but I think the thing about AP English is that people don't like how the time you put into studying doesn't necessarily correlate to the grade. Because, for example, subjects like econ or like computer science, the more questions I do, you can literally see your grades shoot up as you do more questions. But then the thing is about English is, because I can't think of another way to put it, you just have to be good already.
The other theory I have has to do with, early exposure. Because lots of ninth graders take the same subjects, and one of them is speech and debate / communications. Now, you probably don't teach that anymore. I don't think you teach it anymore.
I do teach it. I have one section.
Right, you have one section, and you taught it for quite a while, and it's like most ninth graders have nicer teachers comparatively, and so you kind of stand out.
What do you mean, Paul, from your 2 years with me? Am I not a nice teacher in general?
I would like to plead the fifth.
No, because I don't agree with ninth graders teachers that are nice, because we have other teachers that I will not mention by name. But what I've seen a lot of ninth graders, especially kids who were in our middle school, come up to high school in ninth grade, is that they say that, oh, you do have more freedom as an individual, but you're demanded that much more work, and they just find that jump to high school kind of jarring compared to a relatively easy middle school. And so I don't think it's just teachers being mean or stuff like that. It's just the workload that they're not used to, and they have to now focus and it's time to work. You're now a ninth grader, but you do teach the wide spectrum of students in terms of grade wise. You teach speech and debate and communications. That's now a mandatory course for mostly 9th graders and 10th graders.
Yeah, but this year I have mostly 10th graders, so I don't know as many 9th graders this year, but usually they were 9th graders.
And then AP Lang and then Super English with Syracuse.
Right.
So given your just general spectrum of the grades, I wanted to bring up the grade specific goals I mentioned earlier. What the English department in particular looks for in each grade. So in the ninth grade, in a ninth grader, what would you look to develop?
Right. So the entire English department. So our goal, when you look at it holistically, is by the time you graduate our school, we just really basically want you to know how to read well and write decent. Right, which is really simple. And so you have to kind of break it down step by step, what would happen in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and so on for that to happen so that you're college ready. And this curriculum was kind of designed in mind following the Common Core, but still trying to be more specific than the Common Core. And so 9th grade, I've really pushed for the school to make speech and debate communications a mandatory course for the 9th graders, because it seems like only taking the English intensive writing workshop course was just never enough, right? They're, I guess, maybe not using enough English in the other classes. They're not reading enough, and definitely a lot of them are probably getting by not actually doing the reading. And so they have that supplemental speech and debate course to help them. So you've got English course, a lot of fiction, but no nonfiction, which I think is so important. So that's why speech and debate, they have it. So they build their logic, their basic critical thinking, basic sentence structure, hopefully, essay structure, hopefully, right? They move on to 10th grade, do more analysis. They play with the analysis, with the literature that they have to read, and then they have the choice to go AP or standard English. That's where a huge gap apparently exists.
Wait, this is kind of slightly off topic, but in 9th grade, do you get a lot of kids who have never written an essay before? Because
I wouldn't say a lot.
oh really?
Yeah.
Because I feel like my start to essay writing was like a lot later than middle school.
Right, but you came from England, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know what it's like in Korean because while I was studying for it, I never came across a question in like a workbook that said, oh, write a paragraph on this. It's just which one to buy, which is the right choice.
Right, so students, other students, your experience in Korea, when did you first start writing your essays?
Korean here. I've been through elementary and middle school education and touched in high school. I never did English like intensively because I just spoke English quite fluently. We in our English class we never wrote. It was just not a thing. Even if we do, it would just be barely like a sentence or two. We never wrote full paragraphs, and they mostly teach you reading and like grammar a little bit, sentence structure, but never writing. You never have to write full sentences, even on the tests. And what I heard was why that is to be is that the Korean education system, it's still kind of set in the older days where English is not a mandatory language in Korea. It's still Korean, but because English, back in the older days when Korea was still developing, they wanted a lot of Koreans to understand English papers, the research papers and academic papers and literature in general. And so they wanted the Koreans to have the basic ability to read a lot of English and that analysis skill, but they didn't require anyone to write. And that's why we don't write. And just read a lot, and that's why before I came to Saint Paul, my mom got me a private essay tutor for 3 weeks. I wrote 3 or 5 essays. I don't remember the exact, and that was my prep for Saint Paul Prep.
For an English essay, I say the first time was actually back in 4th grade. It wasn't for school. It was for this cram school, this Hajin called MI, I think. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the place. It's at the Taechi Sagoli. Wait,
I feel like we have one right behind our school.
Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, we had some writing subjects. We had something similar to speech and debate, but like really watered down. But the point is, this wasn't your class was not my first rodeo. Plus, I had an American middle school, 6th grade and 7th grade, 1 year total. I don't remember English class too well, but it was mostly reading and analyzing books. I remember Red Scarf Girl, A Raisin in the Sun. That's pretty much all I remember. But the point is, not a lot of writing there.
What about Kevin? When was your first essay writing experience in English?
As like Justin, I went to a Korean elementary school and I went to a Korean middle school. So yeah, and as Justin said again, in our Korean school, we don't really write essays or even like short stories or like novels. We don't write that. We usually, from my experience, we usually really focus on grammar stuff. Yeah.
So they would give a sample in at least in middle school, not in high school level, but in middle school they will give they'll have be a sample passage, a couple of sample passages per chapter, and then while the intention is for you to learn through that sample passage, it'll be something like, I don't know, climate change or something like that. And the intention is you to learn a little bit about English reading and be able to read and pronounce all the words and stuff like that. But it basically turned into about who can memorize the passage the most. Because on the test, it was just the same passage, exactly the same. And it's like fill in the blank. And obviously, even though you can't read or anything, you could still like, memorize, and you'll still get full points. So, when I see students like me who've come from Korean school, no prior real exposure to English, when they come into 9th grade, I always tell them really value your speech and debate time, because you're gonna go through hell if you don't do that for the future years. And yeah, that the 5 essays I wrote before Saint Paul, coming to Saint Paul, it's not a lot, but it does help you just to get that structure down.
So to answer Hajin's question, most students have some kind of writing experience somewhere, and of course they've learned it like very typical Hagwon style 5-paragraph essay structure.
Oh, for me, I don't know how shocking this might be. I think your class was the first class where I actually reread an essay that I wrote.
I noticed this so many times when kids cry about their grades.
Okay, this is my excuse. Because the England curriculum is like they have a lot of sections, but it's very memorization based. Like there's a lot more content to memorize. Like you have to memorize whole books. You gotta do the timed essay with quotes memorized exactly. There are 15 poems you got to memorize like almost entirely, and then you just write a comparison essay, right? And I got really good at analyzing stuff because they do give you like unseen poetry. So like there's the memorized one and the ones that you read for the first time on the spot in the test. So I got really good at like finding like similes and metaphors and like analyzing really deep meanings behind them. So and then that was literary analysis 2 in 10th grade. So I found that class pretty easy. And then I go to your class and it's like, oh wait, how do I analyze stuff if I'm not using like fancy language? Like how am I supposed to like analyze the meaning behind the actual text rather than just kind of appreciating the fancy literary techniques the author is using? Because the second one is the only one I could do.
Right,
up till your class.
Did you take speech and debate?
I did, but then that's also kind of how I treated it. But since it was like easier, I did still get by, and I didn't notice that it was like incorrect.
Right. So what we teach in speech and debate are elements of that right there, what you're doing in AP Lang, right? But I think people don't notice.
Yeah, I don't think
I notice now retroactively.
Now you do.
Yeah,
Now
same.
you see it.
Because like I just like whenever she said she like gave us a source and then we had to analyze it, I would just analyze it like a literary analysis, just like, oh my god, look at this phrase, it's so symbolic or whatever.
And I, with my big red marker, just put a big X and say, no, this is not a literary analysis. Put it over.
To be honest, ninth grade was a bit of a blur. But what I do remember speech and debate was the weirder assignments, like the immediate fast.
Why is that weird?
Well, it was more unconventional compared to the other classes. What I also remember was reading the books, the Gladwell books. Those were good. The only chapters that come to mind right now are the one about the Italian town.
That was the most boring chapter. That's the one that you remember?
No, it's because it's the first chapter. That's why I remember it.
Okay.
That was the same chapter about hockey, I think.
The Italian town was actually the introduction, and then the next chapter.
There was also the other one about the Italian town and communications. Amanda Knox, I think.
Right.
Hold on, and there was also the Stanford case. Oh yeah, Brock Turner. Who now goes with Brock Allen Turner. In case you run across someone who calls himself Alan Turner.
Just like going off of that, one thing I noticed in all of your classes is that reflections are big.
Yeah.
And like you said, Hajin, you never reread an essay. I mean, I reread essays before, but like doing reflections on them, and I noticed now after it's like 4 years that I took your class technically, and then every one of them reflections were a big deal. And
9th grade too, because I think I didn't really start it until your 10th grade. Because I actually learned about that in the training I had to go through to become a SUPA teacher, where the professor in charge of Writing 105, she made the heavy emphasis on reflection. And I had to do a lot of the assignments that you guys are doing right now. And she made us also reflect on it. And I did really realize, oh, this is how you look at the feedback you're getting and start remembering what you should do and what you should not do and understanding. And then that's how I made it a big deal for a lot of our assignments.
And you always say like reflections aren't always just summaries of what you did. It's like you have to put in your thought process into your reflection. And For me, because I like to put a lot of thought. I mean, maybe it's just me. I like to put a thought in my writing. And so when I'm writing reflections, it's relatively easier, and I like the process, just going back and like, oh, okay, how did I did this, and what was my approach, and how could I do better. But I always thought it was like, oh, this is an easy 100. I just get to reflect and then get the 100. But
See, I think some kids think that, and they start summarizing, and then I give them an F.
is that common? I've always wondered.
So common. They're like, what do you mean reflection? I don't understand what you mean by reflect. So common.
I mean, Paul, did that happen to you?
Well, my issue is more divergence, I think. Like, I used to diverge a lot.
Go
Like-
off topic.
Yeah, go on tangents. Like, now, sorry, why did I say I mean, side tangents are very interesting, in my opinion. And I think they could lead to deeper analysis and newer areas of, like, exploration. But sadly, people do not agree with me.
But did I mark you down on that? You keep looking at me with these side eyes.
Wait, so I'm assuming the getting F's in reflections is a lot more common in 9th grade,
Yeah,
right?
because I think they've just done a lot of basic summarizing sentences, right, from their experience. So when I say argue, they summarize, you know? Or when I say analyze, they'll summarize. When I say self-reflect on your grade and why you got this grade, they just summarize, this is what I did first, and then this is what I did. And so they just don't know that these certain word choices, sentence structures, reflect simply just a summary which does nothing to answer the prompt.
Well,
So-
I think although, like, you know how I said how England's GCSE English curriculum is really based on memorizing and repeating the same essays over and over, I think the one thing it got me is that, like, I can find something to talk about. Like, they will really often give you like a text you've never seen before and then make you analyze it in a literary sense. But then some texts just don't have that much like flourish, and it gets harder to analyze, and then you just gotta like force yourself to make something out of nothing. I feel like if there's anything that I did get from that is that I will find something to talk about, but I don't always know if it's correct. You know what I mean?
Right, but I think that's the beauty of English classes, right? Is you can take something and analyze it in any way you want to, as long as your explanation makes sense. And that's what we're teaching you. Have whatever opinion you want, just back it up with great commentary and evidence.
So speaking of commentary, that was the one word I hated the most while taking AP Lang. Commentary.
It feels like
I love it now.
right now.
It makes so much sense looking back, and I was like, yeah, this is how writing should be. And then I noticed it when I'm reading other things. But then, so the big question is like, should students take an AP English? Because I know you're very vocal about people who don't take AP English.
Paul is shaking his head.
Honestly, I think if I didn't take AP Lang last year, I would have actually died in college. Like, I'm doing super now, and I'm thinking like, okay, if I didn't do AP Lang, I would be so cooked.
In my defense, okay, so first off, the rule that I always got was don't take more than 4 APs. Now, looking back, it was a stupid rule imposed on me by people who either underestimated me or had bad experiences. But I kind of took that rule to heart. Now, to be honest, I never actually planned on taking AP English until second semester of 10th grade. Didn't even consider it until then. So I think that had something to do with my decision. I may have regretted my decision a bit too late. I really think they should make the ad drop period a bit longer. That's just my opinion.
Why do you regret that 1 year of taking American literature?
Okay, technically I never took Amlet. I took Brit Lit, but the reason that I regretted it, okay, I'm not calling out any specific people. I met some wonderful people in the class, but some people were not so great to talk to. A bit chaotic sometimes, especially during second semester. I probably would have had more friends if I took Amlet, come to think of it, which probably makes my course choice the worst choice possible. But the other thing is, I feel like I'd be having more fun right now because to be honest, maybe it's just the grass is greener on the other side thing. But I mean, AP Lit looks somewhat fun. Like for example, the King Lear. I've only read it in Korean, but I feel like it would be good reading it again. There's the Odyssey. I love Greek mythology. I even wrote my personal statement on Greek mythology. I do not know what else they're reading.
But then did you do well in the class?
Brillet?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Oh, yeah, really well.
He's actually doing really well in AP Lang too.
Okay, so do you think students like Paul is obviously a student that should take an AP English, has obviously a strong preference for that, but then do you ever not recommend AP English?
I would tell the kid who's super unorganized, always forgetting to do his work, you know? And also the kid who doesn't like to try. You know what I mean?
The first one is low-key me though.
Not organized. I think you're organized.
No,
What do you
no,
mean?
I can, yeah, very, like, if you think I'm organized, that's probably another teacher in the school who thinks I'm not.
Anyone who see my desk can say I'm not organized.
You're okay.
But,
That's organized. I'm talking about like you just forget everything.
Oh.
And the kid who's never turned stuff in. Kevin, you keep pointing at yourself. No, you turn stuff in.
I don't know.
Why not?
Is it that
My
like
question, wait, okay, no, I want to ask if you would rather, like not counting the kid's opinion, but like, would you rather a kid like do AP Lang, try, but still get like a C? Like,
I'm okay with C.
no, but like,
C
I mean,
is a passing grade?
yeah, I know, but it's just above the non-passing grade.
That's okay.
Yeah, that, would you rather that and they take an AP English or not take an AP?
I want them to. But I know your parents and counselors don't want you to. And I can't fight them.
Do you think that, oh Paul, you can speak on this too, that people who don't take an AP English aren't really prepared for that college, because technically AP is a college level course and it's not required even by our school. But do you think that it's a heavy disadvantage for all the students in our grade, graduating seniors, that never took an AP English course?
I think yeah. I think there are some exceptions though. I know some students are in AmLit, Britlit for 2 years who are super smart, right? And I think they'll do okay. They'll do okay because they're just really smart in general. But I'd say mostly you either suffer in AP now or you suffer in college. So what's it gonna be, now or later? Because you're gonna have to go through with it.
So do you recommend just overall most people from 10th grade, even though they don't do that well in 10th grade English, still?
I think number one, they have to change their mindset. And I know this is easier said than done, but if they don't have that mindset of, I'm gonna do it, I can do it no matter what, they're not gonna make it. You know, there are some kids who are just really, I don't know, low motivation. Some people are just super stubborn with their ways and they don't want to take the feedback that I give them. They're gonna suffer. So then might as well just do AmLit, Britlit, have a safe high school experience, right?
And die in college.
And then maybe dying, or maybe not. Maybe you'll have a really easy professor in college.
Yeah, because we have a writing center in our school, and we hire from a wide variety of grades and classes, and it's not always the AP Lang students that are the best writers. I've seen some writing tutors there that have taken 2 years or 1 year of AmLit, Britlit, and are pretty good at writing. So it's not to say like, oh, dumb people go to regular English and smart people go to AP. It's not like black and white like that. But like Paul said, there's definitely a trend for people who are less motivated to take that feedback to move into the regular English courses. And do you think that your classmates, not just the course or the teacher itself, the classmates also really play a big part on what makes that English experience, that English
Definitely, and I
experience.
think that's what Paul is talking about from his Britlit experience. Is he was surrounded by people who really didn't care. When Paul is like, I want to talk about this book, and they were just like, whatever, I didn't even read the book, and that sucked, huh?
There were a few exceptions, but these were the STEM-focused kids, like the kids who were like hyper-focused on STEM. Now I can't blame these guys. Some of them are quite pleasant people. Some of them actually have a lot to say. Just overall, while the sample size is a bit small, after all, the sample size is smaller than 30, which isn't exactly a normal distribution. But I'd say, overall, it's a mixed bag, but it skews more one way than the other.
What I really enjoyed, me and Hajin, we took the same AP Lang course, and that class specifically.
I like that class.
Yeah, we had a lot to
like
talk
that
about,
class.
and we were famous for being angry at each other because we always fought with each other. We had so many different perspectives, and I think wrote in my reflection that helped a lot because you can definitely see people have different ideas. But I heard different things from other course where they had like 15 people, and then
B-Day class.
yeah, nobody was talking or sharing their ideas, and it was kind of difficult for a couple of kids that were there. I
Oh,
heard.
yeah.
No, last year in AP
It's
Lang,
hard for me.
since we were all like writing the same essays on the same topic, unlike now, I could literally just sit there and listen to the conversation and like also join in, and then I would have an outline by the time I walk out. Like I don't have to do anything like.
If you remember, we had a
extra.
really quiet
Yeah.
kid in that class among your 7 really loud kids, right? She said the same thing. Despite the fact that she never actually said anything during these discussions, she was just sitting there listening to you guys made her so much smarter in
Yeah,
the
it's
critical
like-
thinking aspect.
You just sit there and it's like, oh, I have my essay.
Would you say the A-B-Day dynamic is flipped this year because
No way. You guys are all awesome. A-Day is fun, B-Day is fun. And I only have 5 kids in B-Day, but they're fun.
I mean, there's accusations that you made the AP Lang course easier this year. I personally am like, it's whatever. I did well in your AP Lang course. I really enjoyed that fighting. As much as I hate the, like, anger is normally a negative emotion, but like people are still complaining in quotations like about this course, and is there a reason why you made it like somewhat changed it this year, or is it just based on our
It may
year?
have been from my experience with you guys, because there was so much crying and panicking last year, this time last year.
Our grade?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So much that I guess I realized, oh, this reading is really hard for them to grasp. Maybe I should change the text, right? So that was one. And then the other one was simply just ignorance. I didn't know that digi-exam, you could just continue the tests until I end it. So that was not discovered until last semester, the end of last semester. And it was just a game changer. I could now do process writing through digi-exam. So they have the whole month to open the exam and like go in and out and write it, and that's what these 2 kids right here are doing next to me.
Oh, that is pretty. No, I thought it got harder because I remember recently in writing center, someone came in with the allegory of the cave essay, and then they were like, "We have to talk about society as well." I was like, "What?" so I assumed it got harder, but apparently people are saying.
Am I the only one that thought that prompt, that adding the society part, made it easier? I feel like connecting it to society like now is just
I mean,
it just helps with your overall understanding.
it fits nicely. It's not something that you have to like try and force a way to integrate into your essay, but like.
If you have the skills, but they don't really have it right now. That's why it's so hard.
No, but I think it fits nicely already, but it's just, the fact that you're making them, it's technically extra work, So I
Isn't it just
thought.
extra thinking? It's not really.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I thought
It's
it was
like
getting
fun but
harder
hard.
because you were
It's like,
adding more stuff. So I was like, oh, it must have gotten harder, but apparently people are saying otherwise.
it's like the initial drafting process is the hardest part, and but it is quite fun in a way. Then again, that's just me. Maybe I'm a sadomasochist. Who knows?
Finally, I mean, we're nearing our time limit. Is there anything that you want, just high school kids in general? We have, I'm not gonna say this, but like for all the young kids who want to be better at English, because I know there's a lot of kids who want to be better at English. I surveyed a bunch of the 9th kids earlier this month, and then they say, I love the courses, the teachers are great, my friends are great, it's just hard, English is hard, IWW intensive writing workshop is hard, and I'd like to give them a word of advice on, I mean, you could always say, like, visit the writing center. There's a bunch of people who went through the exact same thing as you and struggled through things and can give you advice. But from a teacher, is there anything that students individually should work on to improve their English?
They have to stay positive. If anything, like, let me see. I think they just learn, like, kids in general, they learn really bad study habits. They've learned to just memorize in public schools and hagwons, I guess. So they come here doing exactly that. We'll have a high stakes reading check quiz tomorrow, but they've memorized the chapter. They don't actually understand it, right? So that kind of study habits it just doesn't work here. It doesn't work when you're actually really trying to learn English. And feedback, you gotta take feedback positively. Don't take it as a personal attack on who you are or what your skills are, but just, oh, okay, I'm doing that wrong. How can I get better? Do it better. Practice makes perfect. The 10,000 hour rule is what I tell kids. It's gonna take 10,000 hours for you to master English, right? Read a lot authentically. Write as much as you can. Gain a lot of background info, because again, it's not just read this book and get it, but like everything. Read everything you can. Make connections. Talk to your teacher. We cannot read your mind.
I guess that's it.
I think that's as simple as I could make it. I could have so much more, but let's keep it simple.
Okay. I hope more students read this, listen to this podcast. We need more listeners.
I hope so.
Or maybe you can just advertise it. Maybe you can just advertise it, be like, oh, listen to this episode. It is all the answers.
Take
I
AP
will
Lang.
make the counselor send it to all the 10th graders so they can make
Wait,
the
really?
decision on
Oh.
AP or not. Send it to the 9th graders and understand the process of learning.
Somebody in the back saying 11th graders too.
11th graders too, why?
They're stupid.
Nobody here is stupid.
Okay, this episode was recorded by Hajin Lee, Justin Park, Paul Han, Kevin, Kim, and our wonderful guest, Miss Grace Lee.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yay.